OK, time now for Paper Talk this morning, and we're joined by the United Stand's Adam Stott and the Times football reporter Tom Roddy. Thank you both very much for joining us. Plenty to discuss this morning, including a big transfer story this morning. PSV confirmed that they've reached an agreement with Liverpool to sell Cody Gakpo. He, impressed at the World Cup. But Tom, the timing of this is perhaps a little bit surprising. It's seemingly come out of nowhere. Are you surprised by it? And how good a signing is this for Liverpool?
It was a big surprise last night when Paul Joyce broke this story on the Times that Gakpo was moving to Liverpool. Probably the most surprised of all parties would have been Manchester United, because it seemed clear that they wanted him. There was a suggestion that Gakpo was certainly interested in going to Old Trafford because he spoke about it during a World Cup in which he showed how good he can be, how good he is. He was playing for quite a clunky Netherlands side, but he really shone out actually with 3 goals in the 5 games he played in. And it's not always clear whether World Cup form can then translate to club form. We saw that in many World Cups gone by, where a player has shone and then got a big move that never actually worked out. But I don't think that's going to be the case here, and certainly Liverpool don't either. What's going to be really interesting is how Jurgen Klopp will introduce Gakpo to his team, because in years gone by, he's been a manager who has quite often brought players in that they've sat on the bench and assimilated into the group, into the environment, and then he's introduced them at a later date. But of course, we saw at this time last year when Luis Diaz signed, the impact that he had was immediate, and that shows the characteristics of a player. So that will be one of the key factors over the next few weeks.
I think from the United side of things here, I think with what happened with Cristiano Ronaldo, I think ultimately everyone was thinking, well, this is a target that we were talking to in the summer. I think the only reason we didn't get him in the summer was because we pursued this, the purchase of Antony from Ajax in a very similar wide attacking position. But with Ronaldo officially leaving the football club, I think a lot of the United fan base looked at it and went, well, that's quite clear now. Manchester United need to go into the January window, sign a new forward. Gakpo was definitely one we were talking to before. Now we're talking to his representatives. But the state of Manchester United at the moment, I know Liverpool are up for sale as well, but United at the moment, I think, with spending pretty much all of their budget in the summer, well over 200 million, I don't think United have the actual financials in place to sign Gakpo. I think this has been the biggest problem. I think Liverpool probably have a little bit more in reserve than what United do. I think United spent most of it in the summer, and I think United were hoping that no one else would come in. But this is a very similar scenario to when we were watching Fabinho a few years back. Then Liverpool came in and took him. I think Liverpool I think they work in the transfer market a little better than what United do. And I think they've just come in and took their chance here, because United have just been in talks. That's all we've heard about it. It's all been rumours. Nothing's been a definite with Manchester United and Gakpo. And Liverpool have just come in and strengthened their forward line. And obviously they can offer a little bit more than United at the moment in terms of Champions League football as well. But for United, it is a bit of a blow. And for the fan base, definitely going into January, knowing we need that extra forward, there's one more gone off a possibility of players that we can get our hands on.
Well, Tom, Adams sort of mentioned it there. It's the efficiency of Liverpool, isn't it, when it comes to transfers? This sort of seemingly came out of nowhere, having, Gakpo previously being linked extensively with Manchester United. And how good is this to see for Liverpool fans with, questions over whether they'd have a lot of money to spend in January transfer window, because the Fenway Sports Group is putting the club open to offers, but it suggests that they're still very keen to do business and spend money in the meantime.
Yeah, efficient is a really good way of describing Liverpool's transfer strategy and approach. It's very rare that we get to hear publicly what's going on behind closed doors before they're right at the 11th hour. It's not often that Liverpool miss out on targets. But they tend to be quite focused, quite precise in everything they're doing in the transfer market. And we've seen that in years gone by, in recent years gone by. Virgil van Dijk a few years ago, that's the player they wanted. That was the player they went and got. And there are other examples of that. And a savvy approach is how Liverpool have operated as well, getting players like Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane for bargain prices and turning them into superstars. That doesn't mean they always get it right. We've seen the examples of Minamino that didn't work out. It's unclear how, Naby Keita as well. There was a lot of money spent on him. And of course, also just from this summer, Darwin Núñez. It's very early in his time at Liverpool, but it's been quite a turbulent start to his career. So we'll see how that follows from now on. But of course, one of the big differences for Liverpool right now from those years before is the loss of Michael Edwards, the sporting director. So we're now in that post-Michael Edwards era at Liverpool. How do they operate now? Can it be as efficient and as successful, really?
OK, let's turn our attention to the Express, and they've got a story on Marcus Rashford this morning, with Erik ten Hag saying he's expecting Rashford to score 20 league goals this season. He's got 4 Premier League goals so far, Adam, but 12 in total across 25 appearances. So is this a realistic target from the manager?
I think it's realistic that Marcus Rashford can definitely score 20 goals this season. Whether it be 20 league goals, that is a little bit of an ask. Obviously, we are looking at Marcus Rashford coming in from the left-hand side. All of his goals this season for club and country have come from wide positions. That's where he's got his goals for United. I think he scored his first goal from the right-hand side in the Carabao Cup the other night against Burnley. But predominantly, he needs that space to run into to utilise his pace. I would definitely not expect Marcus Rashford to be the answer as an out-and-out centre-forward for United and Ten Hag. And Ten Hag has even tried him as a number 10 in certain Europa League games this season, and it just doesn't seem to work as well for Rashford. We are lacking in that area, and I think all the signs that Manchester United are not going to be spending any money this season. Obviously, we just talked about Gakpo going to Liverpool, and now Ten Hag's bigging up Marcus Rashford's ability to score goals for us this season with the absence of Ronaldo now. I think Rashford can do it. I think he's in the form of his career right now. I think he really has stepped it up since Ten Hag has come in, and that is the real reason why he's got a manager there that believes in him. I think he's found the manager that works well for him, with a lot of other United players as well who've improved from last season's disappointments of our worst ever Premier League season in history. I think Rashford is one of these players that's taken to Ten Hag's methods, and Ten Hag does trust in him. He is always a go-to, and if he's available, he will usually start for United. The goals, I think if United did go out and buy another centre-forward and Rashford is predominantly playing from the left-hand side, I can see him definitely scoring because his pace is frightening, and I think that's where his best attributes are. I do believe he can score 20 goals, but not as a centre-forward for me.
When you consider that he's got 7 goals in 12 games for club and country now in all competitions, I think that's part of why Erik ten Hag has set this target for Marcus Rashford. It's believing that he can do it, especially after a World Cup in which his confidence should be high. I would say this is the most impressive form of Marcus Rashford's career. And part of the reason for that is the low ebb that he really hit last season. He was out of the England squad. He was struggling with really quite poor form for Manchester United, which was impacted, of course, by a spate of injuries that he was suffering from and struggling with. But he bounced back, and that's probably the most impressive part of it. He's bounced back, and we've seen the clear determination that he wants to do that by going to the US in the summer. He was there early in pre-season, before pre-season, at the Nike's Oregon headquarters. We saw him on the sprint track. We saw him in the gym. And now what we're seeing is the effects of that, because he is in brilliant form. And we've seen it for club and country. And this is a really pivotal part of Marcus Rashford's career these next 6 months to 12 months, because with Cristiano Ronaldo leaving United, can he now step up and be that number one striker? Can he maintain a consistently high level for a club like Man United in a really pivotal period, or will he end up moving on? Because we know is interest from elsewhere.
We'll be keeping a close eye on that one. Right, let's look to the Star at the Sun this morning. Arsenal moved 7 points clear at the top of the table last night, and it looks as though they're going to try and strengthen their squad in January. The Sun's back page leads this morning with the headline "Clear as Mud," as Arsenal pursue a deal for Shakhtar Donetsk forward Mykhaylo Mudryk. And it looks as though there's certain papers this morning saying that terms have been agreed, personal terms have been agreed, and that the player is keen. Tom, is this a good signing if it comes off? He's had some impressive performances in the Champions League, hasn't he?
Yes, absolutely. I'm convinced it would be a very good signing for whichever club ends up getting him. He's an excellent player, and as you said, we have seen that in the Champions League for Shakhtar Donetsk. We know he can play at this level with his goals against Celtic and his form against Leipzig and Real Madrid. Those are big games, so we know he can play at this level. But what's also clear is that Shakhtar are really quite tough negotiators, and they have been public in their expectations for this transfer. They know he's going to leave, but they're not going to sell him on the cheap. They've set this €100 million target of what they want for him. That's the price tag. And currently, if Arsenal are at £54 million, then they're about 30 million short of what Shakhtar wants. And the thing as well is that Shakhtar know, and Arsenal will know as well, that they're not short on interest in a player like Mudryk. There is interest from elsewhere in the Premier League. There's interest from abroad as well, and wealthy clubs like Man City and Newcastle. So Shakhtar certainly aren't going to sell low, and they will look for it. It'll possibly end up being add-ons and things like that put into a deal, but it certainly won't be low.
Yeah, I feel like this is where, with you just saying 7 points clear for Arsenal, if Arsenal were going to actually change tact and go a little bit more and spend a little bit more money, this is the time. They're actually well and truly in the title race. I think this is a test of how much Arsenal want to invest in Arteta, because they do need cover. I think it was lucky that they came back yesterday against a very poor West Ham team away from home, but there's bigger tests to come, and without Jesus for a certain amount of time, I do believe that Arsenal are going to have to back Arteta in this January transfer window if they are to maintain that title charge. I think it's important that they do invest a little bit more and go a little bit more into players than they would normally in January.
Tom, thank you both very much for your thoughts this morning and for joining us on Paper Talk. Appreciate it.